Welcome back to Hourglass Podcast. Today I'm going to be talking to you about prison transport. This is something that most people don't even consider. They think that, hey, you know what? They're getting out of the jail, they're getting a ride, it must be nice. When in fact, it is not nice. It is not fun. It's extremely dangerous. It's extraordinarily uncomfortable. And if you have to do it a lot, it can be a form of psychological punishment, which is actually used in a weird way, like prison transport. You are shackled the whole time. It's one thing to be locked up inside of a prison. It's another to be locked down in a cell for a little while. But when you're handcuffed, your feet are shackled, you have a chain run through a black box that holds your hands in a certain position and is wrapped around your waist, and you're stuck in a van with 7 or 8 other people sitting right on top of each other, it's very, very uncomfortable. Now, if you have any kind of claustrophobic issues, this could be something that will exacerbate it in a massive way. A lot of people that had confinement issues, and I'm not even being funny when I say that, like confinement issues with, being bound very tightly, not just being put into a cell, this could really set them off. It's a very dangerous time too, because if you get sat behind the wrong person in a setup that has some flaws in it, you could get killed pretty easily. Somebody can wrap their hand up around you and they basically can't be broken out of that chokehold if they decide to choke you to death, because their hands are locked to their waist. What do I mean by this? So I'm going to walk you through how a typical day in prison transport would look like. The very first time that you get arrested, you get handcuffed, the cops read you your rights, etc., throw you in the back of the squad car, and then they take you to the jail. Most likely you're going straight to a county jail, unless it's a parole retake, and then they take you straight to a prison. In my situation, I went straight to the county jail, the county detention center. So I go in there, and that's just, run of the mill. You're getting arrested, you're booked, etc. When I had to start going to court appearances, this is when transport and the reality of it, the harsh reality of what it actually entails, started to kick in. The more you have to go to court for appearances, the more you're going to be transported. It's very simple. If you have a bond review, they might set your bond when you first come in and say, just for instance, okay, you got a $50,000 bond for XYZ crime. After that night, if you don't get bonded out, chances are you'll be going, if it's a weekday, to the district court, the local court, and they will evaluate whether or not your bond should be higher or lower. And I've seen a lot of times it gets lowered. The judge might say, okay, $50,000 is too much. I give you a $20,000 bond. Some people come in, they'll have a $10,000 bond, and they'll say, not enough, I'm putting it up to $25,000. Other times they'll just release them on the spot and say, we're releasing you on PR, which is your personal recognizance. So they'll go back to the jail, get processed out, and released. It's just one of the most basic things that you're called back to court for. So after you're in the holding cell and you are told, hey, you're going on a trip to the county jail, or from the county jail to the district court, and you're going to be going up for a bond review today. They will take you and set you into a separate holding cell, you and everybody else who's going. They'll check you off on the list, look at your ID to make sure you are who you say you are, and they're taking the right people there. At that point, what usually happens is the strip search. You get strip search. It's just like it sounds. You get butt naked, bend over, spread them, or you'll do a squat and cough. They'll check inside your mouth. They'll might get you to pull your ears back, run through your hair, do all that kind of stuff like me with the beard, and make me run my fingers through it. It's exactly like it sounds, a strip search. They get you naked to see if you're taking anything with you. The squat and cough, if you're hiding something, if you're keistering something or boothing it, it's going to come out. It's just going to pop out that way. Unless you got some kind of super sphincter, I don't know. Maybe you can do a squat and cough and hold on to what you got. I'm not sure. I don't know. I didn't really do a bunch of that. And by not do a bunch of that, I didn't do any of that. Nothing went in there. It was an exit, not an entrance, the whole time I was locked up. Never stuck nothing up my tailpipe. So I can't speak to the retainability of the squat and cough versus trying to smuggle something. You might have to talk to somebody else or go onto another channel to find that. So after the strip search, what they do is you get dressed, and at this point, the first thing they do is they handcuff you. Just a regular handcuffing. It's nothing crazy. They handcuff your wrists together like this. Lock it in place so that it can't continue to tighten and get to the point where it would squeeze you so hard that you lose blood flow. So it's locked on there at a certain tightness, and then they will make you turn your wrists this way so that they're like that. And now they'll take this thing called a black box, which will hold those handcuffs in that position so that your arms are held like this. When you're traveling around, they're like that. And this black box has a hole in the middle of it for a chain, just a straight up chain. And they'll run that after your hands have been handcuffed, black boxed around. You can't get this, so you can't pick the lock, which is pretty easy to do. If you have the right stuff or just a little bit of know-how, you can pick a lock on handcuffs fairly easily. It's not that hard. So the black box makes sure that you cannot get to the mechanism to unlock your handcuffs and potentially slip them, and you might hurt somebody or you might escape. They don't want to deal with any of that, so it's just another safeguard for prison transport to deal with. Once you're black boxed, your hands will be pulled to your waist, right around your belly button, and they will run that chain around your waist once or twice and lock it. And it's locked with like a padlock or something like that. At that point, you've got really like 3 points of security just around your hand. The wrist lock, the black box, and then the chain. And then, after that, they proceed to put foot shackles on you, which are just a larger set of handcuffs. They're bigger so they can sit around your ankles because there's some big guys in there, and they got some cankles for sure. I mean, so they have to have larger handcuffs, just foot shackles. That's all they are. They put them around your feet, lock them in the same way. They pin them so that they can't continue to close and cut off circulation or anything like that. And the chain's a little bit longer so that you can take those little short steps, but not any big strides. You're not going to be running. You're not going to be sprinting off, anything along those lines. It's just not going to happen. It intentionally reduces your gait, the distance that you can walk. So you're taking these little stutter steps all around. They're not. It's gonna be pretty hard. It'd be like trying to outrun somebody with in like a potato sack race. So you're not getting anywhere without a little bit of help. So with that being said, at this point now everybody's got their black box on, they're handcuffed, the foot shackles. You'll sit there and you'll wait in whatever holding cell that y'all are in until it's time to go. So when it's time to go, the transport officers, which are different, they have a separate job detail than the regular COs and the regular correctional officers and guards that you come across. These guys are firearms trained and certified. They usually carry 3 types of weapon. They'll have a long rifle, a shotgun, and a sidearm. Most instances, it was always a Mini 14, a 12 gauge pump shotgun, and either a 38 revolver or a semi-automatic pistol of some sort. So each officer would have a sidearm, and within the van itself, the prison transport van that was specifically for this, taking inmates back and forth to court or back and forth to another institution, they would have a rifle and a shotgun sitting right up there and up front. So it would just be standing up and just kind of locked in there. They could access it at any point. Shotgun, obviously, for more of a close range encounter. Potentially somebody could be trying to break you out, or the rifle for maybe there's some distance and they need to pluck a target that's further down range, so they have that availability, but the sidearm is right there on them at all times. So they have three forms of weaponry that you need to be mindful of. If you plan on doing anything stupid, these guys will shoot you. So don't ever try to break anybody out of a prison van. You're going to get shot. You are. They're going to shoot you, because that is their job, to make sure that nobody gets away and that nobody can attack the van or bus and do whatever they decide to do with it. So they're watching for that. They take different routes all the time. They will go a different route, and they don't schedule these things. They might come get you in the middle of the night. They might take you early in the morning. They really keep it on like a randomized schedule, so to dissuade anybody from trying anything like that. So prison transport sucks. It's no fun. So at this point, the guards, they got you all hooked up. You're ready to go. And it might be you and 7, 8, 10 other guys. And they'll load you deep into these vans, and they pack you in there like a can of sardines, for sure. It is not some cozy, comfy little ride. You're packed in there with a bunch of guys. You're on top of each other almost, and there's no movement. Everybody's hands are so it's very confined. It's very uncomfortable. It's not like, oh, let's get a ride and just, ride around downtown or whatever and, see what's popping out here and get a change of pace, some nice scenery for the day. It was just a very unpleasant experience. So when you're leaving out of the jail, they get everybody in the van, which is a real pain. They have to get like these steps so you can kind of climb up with your feet shackled. It's not so easy. I've seen people fall and get hurt, and sometimes people fall on purpose to try to sue the place, but they don't care. They just throw you right in the van anyway. Once you get loaded into it, the van's locked up, they call on the radio, say, hey, we're leaving, we're en route to the jail, etc., or from the jail to the courthouse. We got a load coming for bond review, or might be preliminary hearings or whatever. The trial date's set. We're bringing guys to the courthouse. We're en route, and you have to go through your Sally Port. Sally Port is just a set of gates that are put up in like a sequential order. So it's not like one gate opens and you can just ride out of the jail. They'll open one gate and you'll go into a holding center, like just a larger area that's fenced in as well. Then that gate that just opened and lets you into this space will close. Only then, after that gate is closed, will the next gate open. So you're not just going to ride right through. It's like a series of like locks. Like if you've seen boats in a channel or something like that, they're like locks. They have to take you through one step at a time. It's just further security to make sure that it's not like, oh, this gate accidentally was open. People can get in and out. It's going to be a 2-step or 3-step process to get you from that door where you walk out of the holding cell to the van to the actual street. So now you're riding, now you're driving down to the county, or from the county jail to the courthouse, and they could be taking any number of routes. It's going to be switched up a lot, so it's not like, oh, we know they come this way all the time. When you get to the courthouse, again, there's Sally Ports. Levels of security. So the first gate will open, you'll come in, and then that one will shut. And then the next one will open, then you'll go in, and then that'll shut again. From there, then they'll get out of the van, start to file everybody out, and take you inside to the next holding cell. And it could be downstairs you could be on the same level as your courtroom appearance, whatever. But at this point, usually they'll take off the black box, but the foot shackles and the wrist handcuffs will still be on. So you can't run away or anything like that. But they'll take the black box off so that you can move around a little bit. And then you'll go stand before the judge. You might get your bond review or whatever it is. So I'm not really here to talk about the specifics of the court proceedings, but more what goes on with the actual act of, getting shuttled around when you have to do so. It's not like hopping in a car and going somewhere. It's highly secure. They're making sure that nobody escapes. So Black box was actually created by an inmate, which is a fun fact. It was a guy who was locked up, and I don't know if he was currently locked up when it happened, but he designed the black box so that people would not be able to escape, which was it was well known in jail. They're like, yeah, man, it was another guy that was locked up that created the black box and told them about it. So now that it's used universally, it's everywhere in America. You'll see it. If you're going for a ride and you're locked up, you got a black box on. If you don't, I'd honestly be kind of surprised to hear that, especially now. I mean, this was commonplace 20 years ago. I can only imagine that they might have a improved black box at this point, because it was something that was very difficult to break out of. You'd have to pick the lock on the padlock, get the chain off, then you could get that thing. It's pretty hard to get out of. We'll just leave it at that. So prison transport is, like I said, it's not fun, and I've done it so many times that you have to develop a thick skin. When the police were coming after me and the state's attorney's office, when they were setting up to come after me in the legal battle, I had to go back and forth to court so many times because of the amount of charges and the amount of court appearances that you have to do. There's always like an initial appearance for each time you get charged with something. They do a bond review. So I don't know exactly how many times I've been black boxed and shuttled around, but it's in the dozens, easily. It might be close to 100 or more times that I've had to do trips back and forth. And the first year of my incarceration was a lot of that, a lot of back and forth. And I had mentioned in another video prior to this that one of my co-defendants, my other co-defendant, tried to have them attacked when we first got locked up. Now, that got everybody split up and set into different county jails. We were all in counties next to each other. So I'm in a county next over. Every time I had to come back for court, it was a whole issue. So I had to do prison transport, and I'm driving from one county to the next and then back again and spending tons of time in these holding cells. It was just the worst time, and a lot of that added up to why I couldn't wait to get to prison, because I wasn't going to be driving around. I could actually just do my time. There's more to do. I mean, you're basically a piece of human cattle when you're being ferried back and forth that often. It's a terrible experience, and you have to get used to it, and you just have to be able to shut off certain parts of your brain. Otherwise, it's going to just drive you nuts. If you have an itch somewhere on your body that you can't reach, too bad. There's nothing you can do about it. If you have to blow your nose, too bad. There's nothing you can do about it. You got to use the bathroom? Sorry about your luck. I hope you went before you got chained up. They're not pulling over to let you use the bathroom. And this could be when you're traveling from, like in my instance, from Baltimore to Cumberland. That's a several-hour trip. Many hours. Not because it was just straight shot from Baltimore to Cumberland. We would stop at every jail, and they would drop somebody off and pick someone up. Drop somebody off, pick someone up. You're talking about hours and hours and hours in these vehicles. You might just have to hold it. Or if not, you might just use the bathroom in your pants. I mean, it's a terribly unpleasant experience. Speaking of leaving from Baltimore to Cumberland, when I got my time and I got shipped up to diagnostic, and after they processed me in Baltimore City to send me to the prison that I did the bulk of my sentence at, it was a long trip. It was all the way out. It's Western Maryland. It's the end of the line, literally, as far as it goes. There's no other prisons past that. There's one county past the one that I was in that was the very end tip of the state. So, I mean, it was beautiful up there. It was a mountainous region. It was clean mountain air, and it was pretty scenery, but there was nothing there. Like, there was just absolutely nothing. So on the way to prison, I'm already nervous because I'm like, man, I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know anybody there. We'll see what happens. I'm trying to prepare mentally as best as I can. But on the way there, The van broke down. I kid you not. It was already a long ride. It was a long day. The van broke down. The transmission, something happened to it. We're just crapped out because they run these things hard. I mean, it's just like cop cars. They run them hard, man. If you ever get one at like an auction or something like that, that thing's been beat up and just abused. They're not easy on it because it's not the driver, it's not theirs. They don't care. They're going to run that thing to death, and the state's just going to give them another one. So they ride them hard and put them away wet. It's not good. They're beat up from the feet up. This van broke down at the bottom of a mountain. We're driving up this mountain. It was actually called Sidling Mountain. It was a place where they cut through the stone so that the roadway could come through it. It's really cool looking, actually. We broke down at the bottom of it. It didn't entirely break down. The van started, it was just stuttering. It would do this little at a time. I mean, we were going like 4 miles an hour because I was in the second row back and I could look up and see the speedometer. And we're going about 4 miles an hour, just kind of like stuttering like this, just the whole way up the mountain. And I was like, this is crazy. I was like, what are we got like another hour plus or something to get there just driving normally. We're never going to make it. So we get to the top of the hill and there's like a visitor center. They pull in, stop the van, and they ended up like calling whoever they were calling. And of course, they didn't tell us anything. We didn't have anything to eat. We're starving. It's been all day long. People got to use the bathroom. It doesn't matter. You just got to go into that like Zen part of your mind and just hold it. You got to just hold it together too. Because if you start getting nervous and anxious and antsy and you're confined like that and you're stuck there for that long of a time, it can really get inside your head. So this was me driving to prison for the very first time to step foot inside an actual prison other than diagnostic. And the van breaks down. We're stuck. We're sitting there. It's several hours before they get another van out there. In the meantime, they call the state police. They pull up and sit there in a car next to us. And they never got out. They never spoke to the officers. The officers never spoke to them. I guess this just happens more often than not. It just seemed like they were used to it. So they just sat there next to us, armed security, making sure the prisoners didn't get out. And we just sat in the van and just cut it up. We were just joking and laughing, trying to pass the time best we could. And as usual, you white guys, me, we are a minority in the Maryland State prison system. It's like 90% black, 10% white. It might be 85-15 in some places. So I'm the only white guy in the van, and I don't know how this is going to go. I'm like, man, let's find out and see how how race relations are going to be for me during the rest of my stay. But these dudes were cool. We had a great time. We were joking and laughing, and only one of the guys that was in the van with me, I would see regularly throughout the rest of my time, and we were buds. Like we were always cool after that, and. He's like, hey, man, you remember breaking down that van? I'm like, oh, yeah, I definitely remember that. He's like, man, that was your first prison experience, huh? And I was like, yeah, it was. That was nice. So stuck in that black box, no food, had to use the bathroom, terrible. But they finally sent on the van. It had been a few hours, maybe a couple hours, like 2, 3, I don't know. It wasn't past 4 hours. And they come to get us, and then finally, I couldn't wait to get to prison just so I could use the bathroom and get these handcuffs up off of me. So we get to where we're going, come through the Sally Port. I'm like, man, this place is serious. I'm looking around, and I mean, there's razor wire everywhere, or concertina wire. I don't know what you call it, but it was no joke, man. And it was so much of it. I mean, it was like, you ain't getting out of here. You're just not getting out. They had like the hurricane style fence where it was like curved inward. So even if you did try to climb it, there's no way you're getting past the wire, and there was about this much space. There was these vertical slats going over it. It wasn't like a chain link fence that you could just climb up. So you couldn't even get your fingers in between it. It was wild, man. They definitely designed this place with no escapes in mind. And as far as I know, I don't believe anybody's ever escaped from that institution, at least not going over a fence. They might have walked off on like a minimum detail or something like that, but they're not. You're not getting over that fence. And if somebody did, I'd be incredibly surprised. Like it would require a great amount of ingenuity and a lot of luck to be able to pull that off. And then even if you get out, you're not going to stay out. So, yeah, once you're there, which I was fine with because I knew I had time to do, and I didn't want to do any more transportation. So now I'm on the compound for a couple years. Fast forward a couple of years. I start to go back to court. I ended up going back trying to get some of my time back after about 5 years at this point. And I hadn't been in a vehicle in almost 5 years now. So it's over 4 years, not quite 5 years at this point. I had not been in a vehicle. I've just walked everywhere. Run a little bit, like in the big yard, they got laps out there. I might go run some, but no vehicles or anything like that. Well, as I start to go down the path of trying to get my time back in court, I get a letter from the circuit court all the way back in the county where I'm at. So it's a 4-hour drive without stops from Cumberland back to the Eastern Shore. 4 hours, okay? Now, we're going to stop as well, so it's probably going to be a couple of days just to drive and go back for a court appearance. So I get called one day. They pop my door, call my name, and I go to the speaker. I'm like, yeah, what's up? They said, pack up. You're going to court. And I was like, I don't have to go to court. They're like, yeah, you do. We got it on paper. You got to go. I said, man, I ain't got to go to court, though. I don't have any appearances. Doesn't matter. I knew I didn't have to go because I didn't get anything like summonsing me, telling me I had to go to court, but they were told I had to. So I got to go through this whole process again. Do the strip search, get the black box, all this stuff put on. I'm like, man, this sucks. A couple people are like, well, man, at least you get to go for a ride. I'm like, I don't want to go for a ride. I'm good. I don't want to do any prison transport. Last ride I want to take is the one where they drop me off to the next jail on my way home. It's like, I'm good. I don't need this. I had to go. They called me to court. I go all the way back to the Eastern Shore from the western, end of Maryland. And this was a 3-day round trip at best. I would have to get to Baltimore City and I would stay at Supermax for the night, which that's a whole nother topic right there. So I'd be at Supermax for the night and get up, go back, and then I get down to the shore the next day, go in for court, do my little thing, and then they send me back, and I'm probably either staying at Supermax or another jail for a night before they get me back to Cumberland. So this is a 3-day trip just to go into the courtroom for the judge to say to me, did you get the paper that we sent you? The one that I had already signed and sent back saying, yeah, I received this paperwork. I know what's going on. They called me all the way down there to say, did you get it? Yes, I got it. Thank you, Your Honor. I didn't give him the face that I'm giving you right now. I was very respectful. I'm like, yeah, thank you. Yes, I did receive the paperwork. You should have a copy. I signed it and sent it back to you. Oh, yeah, we have it right here. And I'm just like, yes, thank you. And I go back in the holding cell. I'm like, are you kidding me? You called me down here to ask me if I sent you the thing that I sent you? Like, this was crazy. So, and then some people are like, well, at least you got to go for a ride. And I'm like, no. I don't want to go for a ride. It's not a ride. This is a nightmare. So anyway, I go back, get all the way back, and throughout the process of going to court, I had to do this a couple times. And it was just super, super, super uncomfortable. It's one of the worst experiences in your incarceration journey is having to do transport if you're doing it a lot. Now, there can be some funny moments that come out of it. There's some funny guys that you'll come across, real characters, like these guys that were locked up in Baltimore. Some of them could have been legit comedians, man. They'd have the whole bus laughing the whole time. It wasn't like super tense every time. Sometimes it was. But every once in a while, you get one of these dudes that was just hilarious, and he could just read the room and just had his gut laughing the whole time. And that was, it made for a good experience because, you're really not going to do that on the tier too much. But when everybody's stuck inside the bus, you got to kind of make the time go a little bit faster. And there's a couple times where that happened. It was hilarious. Like, we were just laughing so hard we forgot we were locked up. But for the most part, it's just an abysmal experience. And that is one way that they'll break you too. They'll send you back and forth all the time, driving around back and forth, back and forth. And there's another, they called it the DOC shuffle, where they would send you from jail to jail. As soon as you get comfortable in one, they move you to another one. They keep moving you around. It's a form of unsettling you, not allowing you to come to rest or come to land anywhere. It's like a psychological form of trying to break you. And they do this to people who, you could be like a higher up in a gang or something like that, and or you could just be a total troublemaker, and they're trying to run you ragged. So they can do that by moving you around, doing a DOC shuffle, or transport. Transport it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It's something that I've even had like nightmares about after I got home, just being stuck in a van, just handcuffed and just sitting in there. I'm like, oh man, I gotta go on this ride, just sit here stuck like this with these guys that stink. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these dudes are nasty. They don't shower. They're funky. They're gross. They're stupid. There ain't nothing to talk to them about. They're just dumb, and you're stuck. It's if that's not a deterrent to keep you out of jail, I don't know what is. So, prison transport is for me, my experience, one of the worst parts of prison was riding back and forth. A lot of people think it's the showers or the food or all that kind of dumb stuff or being locked down. It's like, no, those aren't like great things. It's nothing you want to write home about. But yeah, back and forth, driving to court for whatever reason or getting transferred from jail to jail. It's just one of the most unpleasant experiences, and it's something that I can look forward to never having to do again. Like I said, I have been home for almost 15 years now after I got my time back, and I've had one speeding ticket. That's it. No issues since then, no problems whatsoever. I'm not going back. If I'm driving around somewhere, it's going to be in my car. It's going to be where I go on my time, and I'm not going to be handcuffed. So I hope that this is an enlightening conversation about what really goes on when you're getting a ride, moving from jail to jail, etc. It's not something you want to do. You'd rather be in yourself for the most part. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. This is something that's been on my mind for a long time to talk about. I hope you never have to experience prison transport. It's one of the absolute worst things that you could go through as a human, in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of terrible, bad things in this world that are going on, but when you're chained up, shackled up, and crammed into a van, you can't use the bathroom, blow your nose, or scratch yourself if you need to. It's a pretty rough feeling, just being at the mercy of whoever's driving you around. As always, the wise man doesn't get himself into what the smart man has to get himself out of.